calling to try to get some type of advice. I don't really believe you guys will be able to fully answer my problem. You might lead me down a path that will give me an answer. So, quick synopsis. I am agnostic, and my boss is Christian. While I was raised Christian, he was very pleased with that during the hiring process.
Excuse me, did you say that you're Gnostic or agnostic?
I'm sorry, agnostic. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Agnostic?
Agnostic?
Agnostic.
Or ignostic? Because there's also an ig, too, I think.
Oh, I don't know what ig means. So my definition of the word is...
Please.
I don't believe that any religion that we have now is correct with Christianity, Muslim, Latter-day Saints. I do believe there's a higher entity. Something had to create us.
Why?
So in the absence of that absolute proof, I don't believe any of these current gods. And to answer your question of why, this is where I keep going back to. This is why I believe that'd be something.
Sure.
The human body can be scientifically broken down to every element that comprises it.
Mm-hmm.
But something animates that once you put it all together.
Yeah, our central nervous system and our brain.
That? Okay.
Is
lays out.
I was going to say, is the idea that nobody's adequately answering that to you is what's making you think that there must be some sort of higher power?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the label deist?
Deist?
Deist, yeah.
No, a deist, you said.
A deist, yeah, D-E-I-S-T. And these labels aren't terribly important, but they can be useful for kind of classifying to see where we're going with the conversation. But a deist is basically somebody who thinks that, yeah, maybe there was a higher power that started everything, doesn't really get involved in our day-to-day lives, just sort of was a first mover, perhaps, and then that's it. There's no other interaction from this higher power. Does that adequately fit kind of where you're at, or is it?
That would be closer to where I am. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because you said it was a deist.
Deist, yeah, D-E-I-S-T, yeah.
Okay.
I guess for me, there is this idea. You were getting to this idea maybe of a soul. Is that where you were describing something that would animate a body?
That's what I was describing. Yes.
Okay.
In layman's terms, it'll be a soul.
Sure.
Just combining all these elements together. I know you said central nervous system, the brain, but what ignites the initial spark to make all that starts to run?
Well,
I've seen a lot of death in my time, and when you're watching a fresh corpse, it's a puppet laying there.
Yeah.
All the elements are present, but there's nothing.
So do you think there's a ghost in the machine? I mean, really, when it comes to that puppet, right? When it comes to your body, your meat, your muscle, your bones, if it's not your central nervous system, if it's something ethereal, we would have stumbled upon it by now, right? And even if we haven't, what mechanism does it use to control our body? Right. I mean, there were all kinds of different things postulated, and none of it has stuck thus far. Wouldn't it be best to conclude instead there must be something? I'll believe something when there's evidence for it.
If I understand what you're saying, I guess we're both dabbling in the same arena here.
Well,
you're saying something has to start the process of essentially putting life into the body, into the puppet.
Well, typically atheists.
What is that?
Typically, I think atheists would say, I'm not sure how that came to be, rather than putting forth an answer that we really can't back up. So I am interested that it seems like you're going a step further to say, when I look at a human body, it seems animated. It seems like there's something going on here. Why is that? Well, I'm having trouble explaining why that might be the case. Therefore, I'm going to just conclude that maybe there's some higher power behind it. Is that where you're at? Because I don't want to misrepresent what you're saying.
Yes, I think you're adequately stating my, I'm going to say belief structure, and I'll take it one step further. And the reason why I just don't accept current faiths of any sort, because every testament that they want to preach out of has so much hypocrisy in it, and they excuse it all by saying something like, "Oh, it's God's will," or "You're applying human thinking to the spiritual realm. You can't do that, and it's not your place." I can't buy into that.
See,
but what I can visually observe is like I said, I've been to a lot of funerals in my time as an adult. You see a puppet laying there in that casket with everything it needs to be human, but something is missing because it's not animated. What is that?
A functioning central nervous system.
I was going to say oxygen, but
yeah. I mean,
I was going to give you a little bit of a flippant response, but yeah, I understand how you could look at maybe a dead body and wonder, you know, why is it ceasing to exist? What just caused that thing to shut down? These are great questions, but you said something really interesting there, and it was almost the flip side of what you were saying before. The first claim or the first assertion I think you were saying is, we don't really know how these beings get animated, so I'm going to conclude that there's an answer to it, and that answer is some sort of God, maybe a deistic God. And then you also said, well, if I could just finish this, and then I think you also said something.
Sorry.
I think you also said something like, I see other people who make these religious claims about all these different gods, and because they're hypocrites, what they're saying is not true. They very well could be hypocritical, and their claims could be true. So whether we're dismissing a belief or we're accepting a belief, if we're dismissing a claim or we're accepting a claim, the time to accept it is when there's a good justification for it. So rather than appealing to uncertainty or uneasiness or I just can't explain how it might be otherwise, what would you say is the main reason why you think that there's some deistic entity behind all of this?
Oh. The reason I don't have adequate response to the reason you just gave. It is because science hasn't provided. This is the whatever it is that is causing the human body to actually function and then develop thought, and then it grows from there exponentially.
Okay.
Because of that what's I'm looking for?
Who's to say that science hasn't?
Well, what I'm a little bit curious here is, if we can adequately define what you mean by animation, and science were to adequately, to your satisfaction, explain how that could happen through, I'm thinking evolution or some other process, something where they could say, hey, listen, Jerry, these are the steps to get you to the point where you're looking at this and being confused.
Or embryonic development.
Okay.
Possibly. My question is, would that settle it? Would you take the word of 17 scientists who were able to adequately explain this to you, or would you require more? Would you dismiss what they had to say? I'm a little curious, what would satisfy your curiosity in that question that you have?
Okay. So you said 7 scientists? Is that what you just?
I just threw out an arbitrary number like 17 scientists.
So let's say 17 scientists.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So these 17 minds came together, and through their scientific discovery, they said, "This is it. We have broken the code. This is how essentially life can begin and maintain itself." If they can, 1, explain that, and then 2, practically demonstrate that without falling into the supernatural, then I have everything I need.
Okay, you can do that right now.
Now I understand that.
You can do that right now. And no, you can do that. And all you have to do is take a class on embryonic development. All you have to do is see where we go from conception all the way through. And as you develop as a fetus, right, you're getting nutrients from the mother, and all of that leads up to eventually developing a central nervous system, developing a heart and lungs, developing a functioning brain, all of those different pieces that go into it. You know, you wind up getting a heartbeat and electrical signals moving across the brain, and by the time it's ready, right, you know, you're done cooking. That's it. I mean, I don't understand where in there's any room for magic or mysticism or an appeal to an outside influence, because we have that. We've studied that. You can see that. You can take a class. You don't have to take our word for it. And you don't need to trust 17 scientists, right? You can trust every single person who's studied that all over the world.
And if I could just interject here before you respond, Jerry, I want to commend you, because I think it's great that you are willing to abandon this view if you were to discover evidence to back up what people are saying, how it can appear that humans are becoming animated. So I want to commend you on that. I also want to avoid wasting our time giving you example after example after example to show how this could happen. This is not my area of expertise. I don't know about your background. I wouldn't be the best person to help you get this information. However, I think it would be useful for you, Jerry, to actually literally write down what you would need to see from scientists, for example, to answer these questions for you. And then be honest with yourself if they are able to do that it would result in you lowering your confidence in this claim.
Okay, and I'm okay with that. I actually got a notepad and a pen. I like to write down the area of study you should actually look into. Can you please repeat that?
What area of study were you talking about? Did you say embryology?
Yeah, embryonic development. It's biology, human biology.
Embryonic development.
You know what? I'm kind of curious. Before we go, we have a lot of callers here queued up. But before we move on to the next caller, I'd like to ask how your life would be different if you were to discover the answer to this question of how are humans becoming animated. And I was also kind of wondering if this is just exclusive to humans or are we talking about animals too? But I don't want to muddy the waters too much. Let's say that you did embark on this search for this information, Jerry, and you found the answer satisfactory. And you came to discard this view that there must be some higher power that is animating people. How would this change you? How would your life be different the next day after you discovered this?
I've reached a point in my life where I'm going to continue living from today till my last as the human that I am. So it would have a direct effect. Like, it won't be this great epiphany that turns me into a 180 or something. But what it will arm me with when I'm approached with religious zealots, that I can tell them, I'm okay, I have my answer. You can believe whatever you want to believe, as long as you're not hurting another human. I really don't care. But I don't fall for your nonsense. I don't believe in your nonsense. Please just leave me alone. And here's why. I have scientific...
Okay. Would that scientific information completely shut you off? Would it completely shut you off from the possibility that there actually was some higher power still behind all this, and there's still some evolution and humans are becoming animated through the evolution process or something? Like, would this answer satisfy you so much that you would be closed to the possibility of the contrary?
You're saying that if I found this truth where I just abandoned all supernatural beliefs, in essence?
I'll go with that, yeah.
Then the answer would be yes. I've seen enough hypocrisy within the supernatural belief that if such an entity does truly exist, then the entity itself has problems. And I didn't ask to be created. I'm stuck existing, so I will continue to exist from now to the end day and just not care anymore.
Okay, if I understand right, you're saying it wouldn't really change how you behave daily, but you would be totally closed off from the possibility of there being a higher power if this whole answer of animation occurred. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I was briefly interrupted.
Yeah, sorry.
You were saying I'm sorry, I didn't fully hear what you said.
I was sort of summarizing what I think you've said, and it sounds like you're saying I would be closed off to believing any supernatural stuff if this one answer could be explained to my satisfaction. And if that's and that actually concerns me a little bit.
Why is that?
Well, because I think we should be open to these things. Yeah. I think it is conceivable that maybe there is some sort of supernatural realm. I would have difficulty personally explaining what kind of evidence I would need to see it, because I think the second I saw that evidence,
it would be natural.
It would be natural. But I try to remain open to the possibility of that stuff.
Yeah, when we talk about
then your argument is completely circular.
Well,
no matter what, there's no end state.
Not quite, because what we're doing is, as skeptics, we are tempering our final judgments with skepticism. We're saying that you can't know something 100%, right? There are all of these different ways that you can explore that and go, well, you know, I can't know that I'm not in the Matrix. I can't know that the reality that I'm experiencing comports to the reality that everyone else is experiencing. With that said, we have skepticism for that reason, right? We're trying to say, you know what, this is the best that we have, and we're using that to move forward. But if we're wrong, well, that's okay, because you want to know as many true things and as few false things. You're not so set on the answer as you are about making sure that you have the right question or that you're getting as close to truth as you can.
It seems to me from listening to this conversation that, I may be off here, but it seems like you really need to be certain. It's important for you to be certain about your beliefs, whether you're dismissing a claim because people are hypocrites, or you're willing to accept something because I just can't understand how it's going to be, how it can happen, that you'd rather, it's almost like you're saying, I need to be certain in order to hold this view. Where I think the approach that maybe we're coming from is that it's okay to say I don't know. It's okay to be uncertain. In fact, I think once you come to be comfortable saying those things, it's somewhat liberating to be able to say, I don't really know how all this got here. I don't really know how life started. Yes, I could look at a human being and she definitely looks animated to me, like there's something interesting going on there, but that's kind of where I'm comfortable stopping. I definitely want to know the answer or understand the answer as best I can, but if it can't be provided to me, I don't just take a stance on it. I'm okay with uncertainty. Are you okay with uncertainty, or do you demand certainty in most cases?
In most cases, I would demand certainty, because without uncertainty, we're flapping aimlessly in the wind.
Not necessarily.
I'm not.
I mean, it's not such a dichotomy that it's one or the other, right?
Do you feel like you're flapping in the wind?
I dabble in the.
And let me repeat that. I'll just repeat that.
Okay.
Do you feel like you're flapping it? Do you feel like you're flapping in the wind?
I found my purpose. My purpose that keeps me going, keeps me on task, is my son. My one objective is to provide for him, get him to college. He wants to become a director. I'm going to give him everything he needs to accomplish that ambition. Once he is directing his daytime TV shows as he wants to, my purpose is complete. And that's enough for me. I can wake up tomorrow and go to work and earn to provide for him with that one single goal in mind, and that's enough for me.
I think we kind of shifted gears a little bit here from certainty to purpose, and that's fine. That's interesting. Yeah, there are lots of things that give my life purpose. My family is one of them. My life would be very, very different if I didn't have my family there to be a part of my life. However, when it comes to claims about reality, that's where I'm okay saying, I don't know. I'm uncertain whether there's a God or not. I'm not taking a very hard, fast position on it. Even though as a guest host of the show, it might appear that I have a very hard stance on it, I'm certainly open to the possibility of it.
Because being open to it and saying, I don't know, Jerry, being open to it, what you're doing is you're giving yourself permission to explore. You're saying, I don't know, but let's learn together. And that's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it is a scary, scary place to be saying, I don't know, but that's okay. That's when you move into skepticism.
But my problem is, to try to bring it back to my main issue, is my boss is one of these people that believe wholeheartedly, 100% in the Bible and will make any excuse, any mental gymnastics to dismiss one part that he just doesn't want to deal with, to accept another part that favors his conversation. And now it's to the point where I'm being drawn into these conversations, which I really don't have a dog in a fight, to just be so blunt. But now that he's trying to save my mortal soul, which I appreciate his concern, and he's trying to force me to go to Bible study.
Wait, your boss is trying to force you to go into Bible study?
Yes, he is.
That might be crossing some legal issues.
That is.
The thing with that, though, I personally think that there's a time and place for that stuff. It's probably not in the workplace. You are probably on some legal footing to, I don't know how big the company is, but if you feel like you can safely do so, maybe approach HR and just say, or even the boss, and just say, I'd rather you try to, you can do this maybe after work, but I really just don't appreciate it in the workplace. But what I think you're touching on is this idea of, do I engage with this person or do I not? There's a little bit of a wrinkle here because now we're talking about you being an employee, and there's some possible laws being crossed here. But if you're ambivalent about it and you don't really care about what he's saying and you'd rather him just stop, then maybe just ask him to stop and maybe escalate it afterwards if you have to. But if you're interested in helping him think about his beliefs a little more, and you don't want to argue with him because every time you're telling him something in the Bible, he has a justification for it, then I would strongly advise you to look into something like street epistemology. I've been holding up a cup with the logo on it right here, and it's a really great way of engaging with people. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not yet.
Actually, Anthony, do you want to describe street epistemology a little bit?
I'm trying to get to the URL, but I can't.
Sure. And so the person that you're talking to is actually perfect for this subject because this is what Anthony does. He is the really, really nice version of us because he really cares. For us, if somebody could call in and they don't necessarily have to agree as long as the people who are watching are getting something out of it. They're seeing a philosophical discussion take place, or they're seeing ideas being challenged. Anthony, when he talks to a person, he really cares where they are and moving them forward, and that is street epistemology.
Thank you so much for that. And yeah, just in a nutshell, Jerry, and we should probably move on pretty soon, but SE is really great when you finally realize that pointing out discrepancies in the Bible is not helping the person reflect on their belief. They're not budging at all on their certainty. There needs to be a better way, and I think SE might be really helpful. It's an approach where you're essentially asking questions to help them explain to you how they arrived at their conclusion. And it's quite interesting how a few questions can cause a person to slow down and think about it, and even plant seeds of doubt where they go home thinking about your questions, and they may even struggle to find answers to them and possibly even abandon their belief or significantly lower their confidence in it. So that might be a really good option for you. Do I recommend people SE their bosses? That's somewhat tricky. There's a power dynamic there. Yeah. There's a possible financial disincentive for doing so. Then again, he may be grateful for having had the talk too, and he might be really impressed with your maturity and your willingness to explore this belief in a respectful way. So it's a little bit more challenging, I think, because of your situation, this being a work environment. But I would definitely urge you to look into SE if you can.
And is it SE? Is it?
I'm abbreviating street epistemology. Yeah.
Oh, street epistemology.
This might actually be a good time to mention the playlist that we have, if that's okay. If you want to see a couple of examples, right here on the screen, we have a tiny URL. It's SE latest releases. So tinyurl.com/SE latest releases. And there are a good dozen or so people who are creating street epistemology content examples. So you can see somebody who makes a claim about the Bible and watch how somebody who knows street epistemology questions the what, why, and how they arrived at that belief. So there are some wonderful examples in there, and this playlist is updated monthly. It's a rolling list of, it's a rolling collection of all the latest videos that we have out there. And I think if you were to watch a few of those, it might open up some doors for you as far as how you can engage with your boss here or even some other people who make claims.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to look into that.
Cool.
And if you are worried that that's not something that you can do at work, or you're worried about reprisal at work, still go there, because this is a great way to interact with people in your life. But also know that we're not going to be mad at you if you just, I know someone who actually told their boss, would you ask me how I have sex with my wife? Well, no. Well, then why would you ask me about my religiosity? Because that's something very private to me. And the boss kind of, and he said, so I'd really appreciate if you left that to me privately, because that is something that I do not talk about publicly. And the boss, and just shut up for years.
One thing that I think you'll find out, though, when you start learning street epistemology, which is essentially Socratic questioning,
yes,
and giving time for people to think about it, that you'll learn that this is a wonderful this is a wonderful tool to have for other aspects of your life. Like this I think would be a wonderful thing to teach your son that you value very much. You might even be able to find ways to incorporate this type of questioning into the career that you have and become very proficient at engaging with people and really solving problems. So yeah, I hope that you look into it. I think you'll be very pleased.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'm believing your broadcast is on the internet?
Yep.
What's your URL? I'm trying to get to it.
Sure. YouTube.com/talkheathen. TALKHEATHEN.
Okay.
All right. I think we're going to move on to the next.
Thank you for your time. I actually think you gave me some good advice today.
Cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Cool. We covered a lot of topics there with you, and hopefully it didn't get some of those messages didn't get lost in it. But yeah, maybe you listen to the replay again, jot down some notes, and give us a call back.
Definitely.
It'd be nice to talk to you, or see one of your comments on a video,
or find out where you are along your path, because we kind of want to follow it.
Roger. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right. Take care.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right.
Nice call.
Right.
Covered a lot of topics there.
We did. I
didn't intend for that to be a commercial on SE. I really didn't, but it kind of worked out that way.
Well,
not that I'm complaining. I love talking about SE, but I do think that could be a really good, useful thing for him to engage, not only with his boss and maybe teach his son how to do it, but what I think will happen is he'll end up asking himself these questions on his own positions.
That would be nice. Well, I mean, that's the thing about SE that I absolutely love is when you ask someone, well, why do you think that? Well, why do you think that? Eventually, all you're left work is the framework. You're left, why do you think about things this way? You're all of a sudden looking at the tools that you use to decipher the world around you. And that is your epistemology. And so when you get down to that point, it is so uncomfortable, that Socratic questioning, right? What was it? Socrates compared himself to the gadfly because it hurts. It's uncomfortable when you're getting stung by this question, but we can use it to guide ourselves better.
Yeah, I'm very, very comfortable, like I mentioned before, with uncertainty. I can revel in it. It's a relief to be uncertain about things. It's okay to say, I don't know, or let's look into that. That's a great question. I really don't understand the answer to that. Let's get into it. And when you practice SE, you find yourself becoming much more comfortable with uncertainty and being more generous with the people who are around you who are certain. Because there are a lot of people who are certain about the beliefs that they hold. And it could really tick us off when we see certainty on things that just seem so unbelievable. So it's somewhat of a humbling thing that I think you end up developing as well when you start engaging with people using this approach.
Agreed. I don't have the patience. I've tried the spirit epistemology thing. I just don't have the same patience as you do.
Really?
Really, because you're working with this person, and you know that it can take many exposures.
Oh, sure. There are some people who they come on really strong. And they might even rub you the wrong way, and you're thinking, oh, why would I want to even deal with a person like that? But it does take a lot of patience. But I try to remind myself, if I get upset, if I ridicule what they're saying, even if I find that it's ridiculous, it's going to probably jeopardize the progress that we're making. So once you run into a brick wall so many times, that tends to alter the approach that you use. And there's nothing wrong with taking a break, too. If I find that I'm getting heated and they're making a claim about how you can't be moral without a God, and atheists have no right to raise kids because they're just these immoral people.
Oh, isn't that gross?
Oh, that's like twisting the knife in my back. I'll just say, I think at this point we should probably just take a little break and let's get back later.
I think a good hearty fuck you would actually probably make me.
Dude, we need to spend more time together.
We do. Well, yeah. You never call me back.
Oh, that's not true.
Okay, it's not true.